Awesome. So, Grace, thanks so much for jumping on today.
No worries.
I know that you have been through Elevate. You had a really good experience. You finished the course about 2 months ago,
Yeah.
and we were sort of messaging, and I was like, "Hey, let's jump on a call. I'd love to know your experience." So, would you like me to just kind of start off by sharing where were you at? Where were you
Yeah.
at before
Bit of
you started?
background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, I guess everything kind of kicked off in about 2020. I got diagnosed with Lyme disease and a couple other things. Um, Went down the conventional route, all that sort of stuff. Did a lot of antibiotics for 6 or 7 months. Um, and I did all sorts of different alternative therapies. I started kind of switching over to the other side of things, um, which were all a good help. Like I learned a lot. I was only 18 when it all started. I'm 22 now, and I feel like it's actually really nice to be able to look back and kind of be grateful for everything that happened, even though it was probably one of the biggest challenges I ever had. But um,
Really?
yeah, so kind of started learning about like alternative medicine and herbal remedies and all sorts of different therapies, biomagnetic therapy, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, acupuncture, everything, diet changes, which were all cool to learn about, and I'm glad I know about them. And then I think I just stumbled across um brain retraining. I think it was online on social media, and I just knew kind of straight away because, it was just one of those moments where you go, yeah, I think this is kind of the missing piece to the puzzle. And I remember
Yeah.
telling my parents about that and my friends and stuff. And yeah, it was good. I was excited and I was explaining to my parents all about it because I'd read up on it. Um, Initially it was DNRS that I started.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I kind of had, I think some of my worst sort of challenges and stuff would have been like anxiety-based things and that sort of
Mhm.
stuff. So for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. Like it was, excuse the pun, it was like, it was just, it was just, it was definitely, I definitely knew that I needed to just come down a notch with everything and try and have a bit more trust, a bit more, presence in my body and what I was doing. And I started DNRS, I think it was, trying to think now, I believe it was June 2023 or 2022, excuse me.
Mhm.
And yeah, I had great results from it. I was able to travel over to Canada to see my brother for the first time in a long time. And yeah, it was a little bit rigid for me. So I was kind of after about 6 months, I think what I did find was it was obviously based on all the correct sort of ideas that I was really interested in. Excuse me. And it had all the science behind it and it was really interesting and there was loads of testimonials. But I think for me, day to day, it was probably another kind of stressor, if you like, in the end, because it was a little bit rigid. It's like you have to do this or you won't achieve this, was very much so the philosophy. So then I think I was following Vital Side on Instagram and I liked Lindsay's energy in her videos and I liked the kind of, yeah. And I looked into her different courses. I think I did a reset for the week, the 7 days, and I really enjoyed that. Um, it was just really nice. It was really soft and it was quite flexible, I felt. And then I looked into kind of what course I could do, considering I'd already done, DNRS and I had a big platform and I was doing my visualizations and stuff. And so I think Elevate then was like the perfect, next step for me. And so I started it in the summertime and it was like perfect timing because of course I had a lot of other challenges come out of the blue. And I completely just reframed how I could adapt to those and move forward. And I moved country in the middle of the course. Um, and I was able to continue. And one thing that I really enjoyed about it was it was a 6 week course, but you guys kind of recommended that you can do it over a number of months, so like 2 or 3 months, up to 12
Mhm.
weeks if that suits. And that was just a real kind of like, okay, it wasn't like every morning, like, you gotta, you have to do this, this, and this. And if you don't do that, it's not working out, like you failed. Like, it's just not the case. It's not the reality of life. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a saving grace for me, like during those couple of months. I learned so much about myself. Yeah, I kind of ended up doing, like we have like week 1, week 2. That might have taken me 3 weeks, and that was totally fine. And I still gained just as much, if not more, by kind of doing it my own way. Um, and adjusting it to myself and my own life. So yeah, yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so awesome. I'm keen to
yeah,
dive in and find out more. I want
yeah,
to ask you about the rigidity and what that meant to be able to kind of let go of some of that coming into maybe first reset and then elevate.
yeah,
And you mentioned doing it your own way. Like, what
yeah,
did that mean for you? What did it look like? And what did it feel like, most importantly, versus the like, oh, I have to do this way
yeah,
at that time,
yeah,
otherwise, dun, dun, dun.
yeah. Like as opposed to kind of, in DNRS, like, oh, the rounds, you need to do 60 minutes, like full stop, minimum. And it has to be like, you can't have a round longer than 20 minutes. You need to stand up. It was very kind of portrayed in that rigid sort of way. So when I started to kind of realize that, it's actually possible to regulate your nervous system and completely change your whole mindset and your brain in your own way, because it's at the end of the day, it's your own brain, it's your own body, it's your own, you know what I mean? So for example, like I always prefer to do my visualizations and my stuff maybe lying down, because I was just really able to let go and experience like a real energy shift, a real calm, whatever I wanted to bring in, I was able to experience it. And I would do that, and this thing of kind of like waking up and first thing in the morning, that didn't actually suit me because I used to just wake up and like to have my breakfast and have my little morning routine, whatever that may be, like have your breakfast, have your coffee, come up, start to get ready for the day. And then a lot of times with my schedule, like I would have class really early in the morning. So and then I'd have a break. So it normally works for me to kind of do my practice after class. And that was perfectly
Mhm.
okay, like, and it worked so much better because it was just kind of like, this is for me and this is actually for my schedule and my habits and it wasn't a complete, you need to abandon your entire life's responsibilities. And, yeah, so it was great. And then kind of in turn, by being a bit more flexible and a bit more just compassionate with it as well and with yourself, how you were doing it. Um, Kind of like a loving discipline. I kind of thought of it as like, like of course you still wanted to, to do your practice and implement all these new changes, but kind of in a nice, compassionate, easy way for you. Um, and just by doing that, of course, like the practice just accelerated, the changes coming in so much better. I lived in a new city. I was doing a lot of things during the day. I was traveling, I was meeting new people, trying new foods, exercising in a gym, like everything really just came into place. It was really great.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke a little bit through messages, but I don't know how it ended up. So I'm curious to
Yeah.
know. In Elevate, we have a really detailed incremental training
Yes.
thing that Lindsay runs everybody through. A lot of people who come from DNRS find it so beneficial. So I'd love to know
Yeah.
how you found that. I know we spoke behind
Yeah.
the scenes in a private message, which is part of the support that you get in Elevate. You can message us. We're not just on the videos. We
Yeah.
are there to help you as
Yeah.
well.
It's great. Yeah.
Um, yeah, talk to me about what it was like doing the incremental progress in the vital side way, let's call it, or
Yeah.
through Elevate. And I want to hear about your results from that as well, because I helped you sort of
Yeah.
tweak and refine the plan. And I'd love to
Yeah.
know what happens with that.
So when I did the kind of the bit of coursework that you guys had on Elevate for incremental training, it was kind of like, the way I spoke about when I first heard about retrainer training, it was like, okay, this is the missing piece. And then
Mm,
like all the way down the road when I had done all this brain retraining and it was so much better. But I still had a few goals that I still wanted to get to, and yourself. And then when I came across the incremental training, I thought this is the other missing piece. You know what I mean? Like it really was something that I hadn't um looked into as much or really practiced as much. Um and just going slow and kind of like not, allowing your mind and allowing yourself to kind of imagine what you would love to do in the future and then kind of bringing it back to where you are now and going with a small little progress piece. So for me, it was a weight training session in the gym. So maybe like an hour of weight training. Like I have certain programs that I used to follow that I'd like to start up again that I used to really enjoy. Um, and they're quite, there's maybe like 8 exercises in them or something, and they take a little bit of time and a little bit of stamina. So I kind of, yeah, I started off maybe with one exercise and I had a plan all written out for, I was going to give myself about 6 weeks. So I've
mm,
done 3 weeks of the plan. And this is the other thing as well, I guess. So this wasn't actually 6 weeks ago. This was a little bit longer ago, but like that's totally fine because there was something came up in life after about 3 weeks that meant I had to kind of change location and come home for a bit and, deal with some things. And that's perfectly fine. And like even just being able to kind of to have the perspective on that now that, that's not progress lost or it's not,
mm.
it's completely normal and it's the kind of flow, the ebb and flow. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting back into it. But I have been in the gym more. It's been great. Like it completely changed. I was able to look back on kind of New Year's Eve. I like to look back at the year and the previous years. Excuse me, a little bit
Okay.
of a cold. And yeah, I remember trying to kind of dive back into the gym training a couple of years, well, a year or two ago, and just kind of just diving in, kind of, yeah, with a different sort of mindset, different sort of expectation. And of course, it didn't have the result that I was hoping for, but this time around, completely different, just a better trust in my body and just kind of happier with the little things, not, yeah, yeah. So it's been, yeah, it's definitely a really important part of the course, and I'm excited to kind of get back into it now in the new year. This week is my week.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, so I know you love the incremental progress. Was there anything else in Elevate that was just like, and it may not be as huge as like, this is the missing piece, but was there some
Yeah,
little things that you were like, oh, I'm taking that and running with
definitely, definitely. The core values piece, finding out what your core values were, that was really interesting for me. And it's something that I regularly think about still, just throughout the day, kind of like involuntary thinking about, oh, that kind of makes sense. Like that aligns with a core value that I might have. And I didn't know that about myself really. So it kind of gave you the tools to figure out what those core values were. And that became my declarative statement and kind of just became like a nice blueprint to follow for making decisions, for going about your day, for meeting people. Like really important. Yeah. Like a
yeah.
really important thing to know. Um, like for me, like one of my core values was creativity. And that was something that I might have kind of lost along the way, was really, really passionate about as a child. And yeah, one of my things now is to let myself be more creative, like through I play music, I play the fiddle, the violin, and through writing. And I really want to get back into painting and drawing. And it excites me and it's kind of something I'd forgotten about until I realized, no, this is actually something that I really value, you know. Um yeah, I really enjoyed that part. Um,
Yeah, and that brings so much juice to your life. Like creativity is
yeah,
big for me as well. But
yeah,
in general, if you're going to live a life based around your values, which inevitably are the things that are most important to you in your
yeah,
life, it's going to be a
yeah,
much richer experience. And I know,
yeah,
yeah, your story is common, and I'm glad because you're
yeah,
22 and some people are much
yeah,
older when they realize their core
yeah,
values are well lived by them.
yeah,
But through adulthood and like the pressures of society, and then especially through training, brain retraining or healing or trying to find answers when we've got these, symptoms coming up,
yeah.
it's so easy to lose that passion and that vitality and that
You lose
excitement for
yourself,
life.
your kind of sense of like, things that you really are passionate about.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like it gave me a lot of clarity as well, you know, kind of on how you do want to spend your time. So
Hmm.
yeah, that was really great. Um,
That's
yeah, and
beautiful.
also another thing that kind of stuck out, bit of a random one, but I think it was like a neural no nugget. It was a gratitude
Hmm.
immersion. Yeah, I remember doing that for the first time and like just tears of absolute joy were rolling down my face. It was just really special and I wasn't expecting it. It was kind of, one of these things you weren't really, so it was very natural it wasn't. And I've done it a couple of times since. I really enjoyed that and I still use that. Um, yeah, that was really nice. There's loads of other things. My folders in Spain, because I do like to look at it when I'm kind of throughout my weeks, just to look back on things, to rejig the memory, get things going again. So I don't have it here with me, but
That's
I mean
okay.
there was there was lots. I have a lovely folder, like it's beautifully illustrated now and written up,
Mhm.
and it's really cool. Like it's going to be something that I'll keep forever for sure, because I printed out the kind of guidebook and
Mhm.
went through it like that, and I have it in a lovely kind of Polly Pocket folder, and it's just really nice thing to have done for yourself. Yeah,
Beautiful. I love that you've
yeah,
illustrated it. That is
yeah,
amazing. And again, that creativity coming through.
yeah,
That's so
yeah,
awesome. How
yeah,
did you find, of course, naturally, I'm always curious about this because this is one of the things
yeah,
that I love to bring in, bringing more play and bringing more
yeah,
laughter to
yeah,
life, but also to some of those healing exercises that we did. How did you find those? And if you
yeah.
didn't like them, that's okay. Some people don't gel with them.
No, no, yeah, I remember I did one that was about, I think it was 40 to 45 minutes long, a laughter session, essentially.
The big
And
juicy
the
laughter
first,
session with Lindsay and
yeah,
I.
the first 10, 15 minutes, I definitely struggled. 100%. I was thinking, this is a little bit, I wasn't sure. I wasn't really like letting go. And then by the end of it, I was just going for it, being silly. It was funny. Like it was, and I kind of felt, I remember afterwards finishing it and thinking, geez, I feel a lot different to how I started. And that was definitely something, yeah. And it was nice just to kind of, I think one of the things you were saying was you can just choose to laugh. That's as simple as that. And that was kind of it. So I know I did enjoy them. Yeah, for sure. And I think when you give things a chance, you know, you will gain once you're open, I think a lot of times, there's a lot to benefit from. So no, I did enjoy them for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
That's cool. I was going to ask you through Elevate, there is a part where we focus a little bit for a few days there on guilt and shame and unforgiveness. Did you have guilt from doing your DNRS practice differently to how they'd prescribed? Or if you didn't do a day, did you have guilt from the actual retraining process that you were able to heal through that?
yeah, for sure. I definitely had guilt from, if I missed a day, because I was keeping a diary back then as well of the days. And yeah, like if I missed a day, I remember when I was traveling in Canada and we were in a camper van and I still was trying my best to kind of go off in the woods and do my practice. And I was really, really dedicated. And, you know, I was really looking back, I can see how much progress I was making. But at the time, because it wasn't hitting this kind of imagined quota of what I had to do, had to, it kind of, for sure. Yeah. On the clock. Yeah. So yeah, there was probably a lot of guilt around that, which I was able to shift a lot of. And I think being aware of the guilt or the shame for certain situations is necessary too. And that's definitely something I liked about Elevate was that it wasn't like, you're not allowed to have human emotions or you're never allowed to feel it, or it's not, part of if you want to retrain your brain and if you want to kind of regulate yourself, you can't have X, Y, and Z emotions, that wasn't the case at all. So it was really nice in that aspect. It was kind of allowing a bit of space for those emotions and then kind of, moving through them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the thing about an emotion lasting for 90 seconds was pretty cool as well. It was a nice thing to learn. And I often think about that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I really enjoyed when I started Vital Side and I learned that. I was like, oh
yeah,
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 cool.
yeah, it is cool. Yeah. It's just kind of to
Yeah,
allow things to be for a little bit and then to, move forward. And yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's a really great tool. Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Um, do I have anything else I'd like to ask? Um, you mentioned before, I don't know if you're going to remember because it was very early in the piece. You mentioned that Elevate was a saving grace in the time that it came into your life. Um,
Mm.
is there anything you want to share about that or how or why? I was curious when you said it and I made a note and then I forgot to come back to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I will. So I kind of had planned to start it, I think it was July. Um, and then I ended up getting my appendix out. So surgery came up. So that
Um,
was kind of a big healing piece for my body. And, after a week or two, when I was a little bit more mobile, I was kind of stuck at home anyway. And I
um,
really just dove into it and like complete shift of, being, it was a difficult challenge for sure. Like, there was a lot of pain there and a lot of changes for your body. Like it's a trauma at the end of the day on your body, unfortunately. It's just one of these things that came up, complete surprise. But
mhm,
I remember just realizing that you were actually able to be kind of in a little bit of pain and stuff and still be grateful for things and still be, there's kind of a duality of these things. And then I moved country and that was a big change. And I thought maybe, maybe this was a little bit outside my zone. And then I just kind of brought it back and I had still, I think if I hadn't had Elevate to kind of work on each day, like a little bite-sized piece each day, learning more and just implementing, like, I was doing my regular practice of my visualizations anyway, and I still do journaling every day. Um, the little the wins, the loves and the gratitudes every day, every evening. So it's really nice. But I also had kind of a nice little structure to like come back to every day or every other day with Elevate when I moved country first, when everything was all over the place, everything was so new. I had something to come back to that was a bit of consistency and routine for me. And it was still learning more about brain retraining and learning more and having little practices that were very kind of regulatory for my body as well. It was great. It was really, really important. Um, yeah, and then some other family issues popped up later on down the line, and it was just something. It was just nice to know that you kind of have, so many tools for the me space, So
mhm.
whatever's going on around, you just can trust that you're going to be okay and you're going to deal with things. And yeah, it was just nice synchronicity that I started the course. At first, I thought, oh no, I wanted to start the course. After having surgery, I can't sit at a desk. And then 2 weeks down the line, I was thinking, thank God I started this course now, yeah, because I needed something to, yeah, it was exactly what I needed at the time. So I think, yeah, I think everything goes according to plan in that sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so perfect that you sort of
yeah,
had Elevate in your pocket, like
yeah,
through all this
yeah,
winding journey through that time.
yeah,
That's special.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Beautiful. Is
yeah.
there anything else you'd like to share or anything you would say to a brain retrainer who might be like, I don't know if Elevate's for me?
Yeah, I think if you're thinking about it, if you've tried other brain retraining and you're kind of at a point where you know that you kind of can get to an even better place, you know that inside yourself and you're looking for something, I wouldn't hesitate. You know, it's a really positive thing. It's really, really positive. There's a lot more to experience about yourself. There's a lot more to kind of be able to bring up and let go of and then move forward. You know, I would really recommend it for sure. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love how you shared that because we do. Yeah. I think sometimes people see, especially my work, and they think it's all high vibe all
No,
the time.
no,
And it's
no,
not. And it's
no.
about, like you said, bringing those things up gently and with compassion and with a curiosity to be able to work through them. And I often
Yeah.
call Elevate the love child between brain retraining and personal development because it's
Yeah.
got, the values and the beliefs and those things that maybe you've never worked on, or maybe you have, but you're in a different space
Yeah.
now that you've started healing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
You
love
know,
that.
even for someone who wasn't experiencing, chronic illness or nervous system dysregulation, like it's still beneficial, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Like it's a really good course. I definitely the best thing that I've done for my illness, I think, and for myself. And here I am now, and I'm doing really well. Um, yeah, I'm doing really well. I mean, I'm excited to start my incremental training. And, after that, I kind of implement different practices throughout the day, kind of without even thinking now. And they can be short. I really like how it doesn't have to be, the 60-minute like quota of you need to do 3 visualizations for 60 minutes or you're not gonna, whatever. But you just kind of adapt something. And even when times get busy or it's Christmas and the house is full of people or whatever it might be, you have that one thing that you do for sure for yourself. And it might be really small, but it's a nice little promise to keep to yourself. Um, and yeah, there's
And
a lot
it's
of
something
benefits.
that you've chosen for you.
Yeah, 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 exactly. No,
That's beautiful.
definitely. Yeah,
And you're doing
yeah.
regulation station now, right? You're a regulation
That's the
station member?
plan. That's the plan. I haven't
Ah, that's the
started
plan.
yet. That's
Okay.
the plan. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'm so looking forward to having you in there. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for, making the time and just being available for the chat.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. I'm
of course,
like,
I enjoyed it.
so cool to
Good way to
connect.
start the morning.